Cole had oil on his hands and sweat on his forehead when he first saw her. He was lying under a broken air recycler on Deck 7, trying to fix a valve that had been giving him trouble for 3 days. The Horizon's Edge was an old ship, and old ships needed constant care. That was his job. He fixed things. He kept the air clean and the gravity working. Nobody noticed him when things worked right, and everybody blamed him when things went wrong. He heard footsteps approaching. They were not human footsteps. They were too light, too graceful, like someone walking on clouds instead of metal floors. He slid out from under the machine and looked up. She stood almost 7 feet tall. Her skin was silver but not like metal. It shifted and moved with colors that he could not name. Her eyes were large and violet, like 2 moons hanging in a pale sky. She wore robes of deep blue that seemed to flow around her like water. She was looking at him with an expression that he had seen many times before. It was the look that always gave humans. It said that she was looking at something small and simple and not very important. Stood up and wiped his hands on his work clothes. He did not bow. He did not know if he was supposed to bow. Nobody had told him the rules for meeting alien royalty in the engineering section. "You are the one who fixes the machines," she said. Her voice was like music, but cold music, beautiful and distant. "Yes," said I am. "I am Princess of the Empire," she said. "Daughter of Emperor, I wish to see how your primitive systems function." Almost laughed, almost. He had been called many things in his 32 years of life, but nobody had ever called his work primitive to his face before. He looked at the princess, at her flowing robes and her glowing skin, and he thought about all the fancy technology on the upper decks. Their ships could cross the galaxy in days. Their weapons could crack planets. Their medicine could cure almost any disease. But here she was, standing in his engine room, because her people still did not understand how human machines worked. "Would you like me to show you?" he asked. She seemed surprised by the question. Perhaps she had expected him to be afraid of her. Perhaps she had expected him to fall on his knees and beg for forgiveness for being so primitive, but was tired, and he had work to do, and he did not have time to be impressed by royalty. "Yes," she said after a moment, "show me." So he did. He showed her the air recyclers, which were really just big filters attached to fans. He showed her the gravity plates, which used simple magnets arranged in patterns that his grandfather had helped design 50 years ago. He showed her the water purifiers and the food synthesizers and the engines that burned fuel to push the ship through space. She listened, she asked questions, and slowly her expression changed. The coldness did not go away entirely, but something else appeared behind it: curiosity, interest, maybe even a little respect. "Your technology has no elegance," she said finally. "It is rough and crude, but it works. And when it breaks, you can fix it with your hands and simple tools. Our technology is beautiful, but when it fails, we must call specialists who have studied for 100 years." Shrugged. "We build things that ordinary people can understand," he said. "That is the human way. We do not have 1,000 years to train specialists. We need things that work now, things that anyone can repair." Looked at him for a long moment. He could not read her alien face, could not understand what thoughts moved behind those violet eyes. Then she nodded once and turned to leave. "I will return tomorrow," she said. "You will show me more." It was not a question, it was a command, but found that he did not mind. She came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each time she asked more questions. Each time she stayed a little longer. And each time noticed that her voice grew a little warmer, her manner a little less distant. He learned things about her too. He learned that she was the youngest of 5 children, and that her older siblings all held important positions in the empire. He learned that she had been sent on this diplomatic mission because her father thought she needed to see more of the galaxy. He learned that she was lonely, surrounded by guards and advisors who treated her like a precious object instead of a person. One evening, 3 weeks into the journey, She sat on a crate in his workshop while he repaired a broken heating unit. She was telling him about her, about the crystal cities and the singing forests, and the oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. "Why do you talk to me like this?" she asked suddenly. Looked up from his work. "Like what?" "Like I am just a person, not a princess, not a member of the imperial family, just a person." He thought about the question for a moment. "Because that is what you are," he said finally. "Under all the titles and the robes and the glowing skin, you are just a person, same as me." She stared at him with those large violet eyes, and for a moment, her silver skin shifted to a soft pink color. He did not know what that meant, but he thought it might be good. "My advisors do not approve of these visits," she said quietly. "They say that humans are not fit company for the imperial bloodline. They say that I lower myself by speaking with you." Shrugged. "Do you believe them?" "I did," she admitted. "When I first came aboard this ship, I believed that humans were clever animals, useful perhaps, but not truly intelligent, not truly civilized." She paused. "I was wrong." "We get that a lot," said with a small smile. "Most species think we are primitive when they first meet us. Then they learn." "Learn what?" "That we are stubborn," he said. "That we do not give up. That we find ways to survive and grow even when everything is against us. We are not elegant. We are not beautiful, but we endure." Was quiet for a long time after that. When she finally left, she paused at the door and looked back at him. "Thank you, Cole," she said, "for treating me like a person." "Thank you for being one," he replied. She smiled then, and it was the first real smile he had seen from her. Her skin shifted through a dozen colors, settling finally on a warm gold that made her look almost human. Then she was gone, disappearing into the corridor like a ghost made of starlight. Went back to his work, but he could not stop thinking about that smile. He told himself that it did not matter. She was a princess. He was a maintenance engineer. Their worlds were too different to ever truly meet. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he did not like to examine too closely, he knew that something had changed. Something important. Something that would alter the course of his life in ways he could not yet imagine. The horizon's edge continued its journey through the stars, carrying its cargo of diplomats and secrets toward an uncertain future. And in the quiet spaces between worlds, a friendship grew in the most unlikely of places. The first sign of trouble came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Was sleeping in his small cabin when his personal computer woke him with an alarm. One of the navigation systems had reported an error. It was a small thing, the kind of glitch that happened all the time on old ships, but something about it bothered him. He got out of bed and pulled on his work clothes. The corridors were empty at this hour. Most of the crew was sleeping, and the delegates kept to their quarters on the upper decks. Walked through the silent ship, his footsteps echoing on the metal floors. The navigation room was dark when he arrived. He turned on the lights and sat down at the main computer. The error had been logged and cleared automatically, but he wanted to look deeper. He had built half of these systems himself. He knew when something was wrong. It took him 2 hours to find it. Hidden in the navigation code, buried so deep that normal scans would never detect it, was a piece of foreign programming. It was elegant work, beautiful in its own way. Someone with great skill had placed it there. And when finally understood what it did, his blood went cold. The code was designed to wait. It would do nothing until the ship reached a specific point in space, a region far from any patrol routes or communication relays. Then it would activate, shutting down the engines and dropping the ship out of hyperspace. The horizon's edge would be stranded, helpless, alone. Sat back in his chair and tried to think. This was sabotage. Someone wanted this ship to stop in the middle of nowhere. But why? What could possibly be gained by stranding a diplomatic vessel? He thought about the passengers. Human diplomats, yes, but also the delegation, the princess. His hands began to shake. He went to find Lieutenant Commander, the ship's security chief, was a big man with tired eyes and a permanent frown. He listened to his report with growing impatience. "You are telling me that someone hacked our navigation systems," said slowly, "and that this code has been sitting there undetected for weeks." "Yes," said. "The ship will drop out of hyperspace in 4 days unless we remove it." "And you found this by yourself, in the middle of the night, while everyone else missed it." Could hear the disbelief in the man's voice. Thought he was wrong or lying or maybe just crazy. "Sir, I built these systems. I know them better than anyone. Something is very wrong." Sighed and rubbed his eyes. "Look, Cole, I understand that you want to be helpful, but we have trained security personnel running constant scans. If there was sabotage, we would have found it." "Your scans are looking for obvious threats," said, trying to keep his voice calm. "This code is hidden inside normal operations. It looks like regular programming unless you know exactly what to look for. And you just happen to know what to look for." "I got lucky," admitted. "But luck does not change the facts. Someone wants this ship to stop, and I think I know why." Raised an eyebrow. "Enlighten me." "The princess. Someone wants to get to Princess." For a moment something flickered in his eyes, concern perhaps or fear. Then it was gone, replaced by professional skepticism. "That is a serious accusation. Do you have any proof?" Did not. All he had was a piece of code and a bad feeling. That was not enough. Not for someone who needed evidence and reports and official procedures. "I will take your concerns to Captain," said finally. "But I cannot promise anything. Diplomatic protocol limits what we can do. We cannot just start searching the quarters based on a theory." Wanted to argue, but he knew it would do no good. He thanked and left, his mind racing with possibilities. He found in his workshop later that day. She was sitting on her usual crate, waiting for him. Her skin shifted to a happy yellow when she saw him, but it changed to gray when she noticed his expression. "Something is wrong," she said. It was not a question. Closed the door and told her everything. The code, the sabotage, his conversation with. As he spoke, her skin grew darker and darker, shifting through shades of gray and purple that he had never seen before. "The purists," she whispered when he finished. "The what?" "A faction within my people," she said. Her voice was shaking now. "They believe that the Empire should not ally with other species. They think that contact with humans will contaminate our culture, make us weak. They have opposed my father's peace efforts for decades." Sat down across from her. "You think they are behind this?" "I am certain of it." Her violet eyes were wide with fear. "If they kill me aboard a human ship, it will destroy the Alliance. My father will have no choice but to declare war. Billions will die, and the purists will have exactly what they want. Then we have to stop them." "How?" she asked. "Your security chief does not believe you. Your captain cannot act without proof. And the purists have agents everywhere. We do not know who to trust." Thought for a long moment. Then he stood up and walked to his toolbox. He pulled out an old ballistic pistol, a weapon that had belonged to his grandfather. It used chemical propellants and metal bullets, technology that was ancient by modern standards. But it worked, and it did not need power cells or maintenance computers. "We trust each other," he said. "That will have to be enough." Stared at the primitive weapon in his hands. "You would fight for me, against my own people." "I would fight for you against anyone," said quietly. "You are my friend, maybe my only real friend on this ship. I will not let them hurt you." Her skin shifted to that warm gold color again, the one that made her look almost human. She stood up and walked toward him, her movements slow and graceful. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care what happens to me? I am not of your species. I am not of your world. We met by accident, and in a few weeks we will part forever. Why risk your life for someone like me?" Looked at her alien features and her strange beauty, and he tried to find the words to explain something that he did not fully understand himself. Because it is the right thing to do, he said finally. Because you are a person and you deserve to live. Because I have spent my whole life fixing machines, and this is the first time I have had a chance to fix something that really matters. She reached out and touched his face with her long, silver fingers. Her skin was cool against his, smooth like glass but somehow alive. You are a strange creature, Cole, she said softly, but I am glad that I found you. So am I, he replied. They stood like that for a long moment, two beings from different worlds, connected by something that neither of them could name. Then stepped back and checked his weapon. 4 days, he said. We have 4 days to find the saboteurs and stop them. Are you ready? Skin shifted to a fierce red, a color he had never seen before. Her eyes burned with determination. I am ready, she said. Let them come. I will not run. I will not hide. If the purists want war, then war they shall have. Smiled grimly. In that moment, he knew that he would follow this alien princess into any danger, face any enemy, endure any pain. He did not know where this path would lead. He did not know if either of them would survive. But he knew that he would not abandon her. Not now, not ever. The hunt had begun. The attack came 2 days earlier than expected. He was in the engine room when the ship shuddered and screamed, torn from hyperspace by forces that should not have been possible. The lights flickered. Alarms began to wail, and somewhere in the distance, he heard the sound of weapons fire. Grabbed his tools and his grandfather's pistol and ran toward the upper decks. The corridors were chaos. Crew members rushed past him in both directions, some heading to battle stations, others fleeing toward the escape pods. Nobody stopped to explain what was happening. Nobody had time. He reached a viewing port and looked out into space. 3 ships hung in the darkness, their hulls gleaming with that distinctive silver color that marked them as. But they were not friendly vessels. They bore the black symbol of the purists, a broken circle that represented their rejection of outside species. As he watched, the enemy ships launched boarding pods. Dozens of them, streaking through space like angry insects, heading straight for the horizon's edge. Turned and ran faster. He knew every shortcut on this ship, every maintenance tunnel and service corridor. While the purists were cutting through main airlocks and fighting security teams in the primary corridors, he moved through the hidden spaces between walls. He crawled through ventilation shafts and climbed through electrical conduits. His lungs burned and his muscles ached, but he did not stop. He found the princess's quarters on deck 3. The door was sealed, but he could hear fighting on the other side. Energy weapons hummed and cracked. Voices shouted in the language. Someone screamed. Found an access panel nearby and pulled it open. Inside was a maze of wires and pipes, the hidden guts of the ship. He squeezed through, ignoring the cuts and bruises he collected along the way. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, he emerged from a maintenance hatch inside the princess's chambers. The room was a battlefield. 2 guards stood at the main door, firing through a gap at enemies in the corridor. They were both wounded, blue blood dripping from cuts on their arms and faces. Behind them, crouched behind an overturned table, her skin flickering through colors of fear and rage. One of the guards spun around when appeared, raising his weapon, held up his hands. Wait, I am here to help. His voice cut through the chaos. Let him through, he is a friend. The guard hesitated, then nodded and returned to the door, crawled across the floor to reach the princess. You came, she said. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were steady. I told you I would, he replied. How many are there? Too many. They have been attacking for almost an hour. My guards have killed a dozen, but more keep coming. Looked around the room, assessing the situation. The main door was strong, but it would not hold forever. He could already see scorch marks where the purists were trying to cut through. They had maybe 15 minutes before the barrier failed. Is there another way out? He asked. The emergency exit, one of the guards said. He was the older of the two, with gray streaks in his silver skin. "It leads to the escape pod bay on deck 4. "Then that is where we go," said. "Can you move?" The guards exchanged glances. The younger one, barely more than a boy, shook his head. "We cannot leave our posts. Our duty is to protect the princess." "Your duty is to keep her alive," said sharply. "You cannot do that if you are dead. We fall back, find better ground, and wait for help." The old guard studied for a long moment. Whatever he saw in the human's face must have convinced him, because he nodded slowly. "The human is right, we move, now." They gathered what supplies they could carry, led the way, using his knowledge of the ship to find paths that avoided the main fighting. They crawled through maintenance shafts and crossed through sealed sections that were slowly losing atmosphere. The guards protected the rear, firing at any enemies who got too close. It was the longest night of life. They lost the young guard on deck 5. A purist squad caught them in a crossing, and in the firefight that followed, the boy took an energy blast to the chest. He fell without a sound, his violet eyes going dark. Wanted to stop, wanted to do something, but the old guard grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. "Keep moving," the guard said. His voice was flat, emotionless. "His sacrifice means nothing if we die here." They kept moving. They reached deck 4 after what felt like an eternity. The escape pod bay was ahead, just 100 meters down a long corridor. Could see the doors, could almost taste the safety they promised. But between them and freedom stood a group of purist soldiers. There were 8 of them, all armed with energy rifles. They had set up a barricade and were waiting, their silver faces expressionless. "They knew we would come here," whispered. "They have been waiting for us." Studied the situation. The corridor was too long and too open. They could not fight their way through. The old guard was wounded now too, a deep cut across his side that leaked blue blood with every step. They were running out of options. "There is another way," said slowly. He was looking at an access panel on the wall, remembering the ship's layout. "The atmospheric vents, they connect to the escape pod bay. I can get through and come out behind them." "That is suicide," the guard said. "The vents are too narrow, you will get stuck." "Not for agreed. But humans are smaller. We are built to squeeze into tight spaces. It is one of the few advantages we have." Grabbed his arm. Her skin was pale gray, almost white with fear. "No, please, there must be another way." "There is not," he said gently. "And we are out of time, they will find us here eventually. This is the only chance." "Then let me come with you." "You are too tall, you would get stuck in the first junction." He managed a small smile. "This is what I do, remember? I fix things. I crawl through tight spaces. Let me do my job." She stared at him with those large violet eyes, and he saw something there that he had never seen before. Something that looked almost like love. "Come back to me," she whispered. "Promise me you will come back." "I promise," he said. He did not know if it was a lie. Removed the access panel and climbed into the ventilation system. It was dark and cramped, filled with cables and pipes that scraped against his skin as he moved. The air was thin here, hard to breathe. But he kept crawling, kept pushing forward, following the path in his mind. He emerged behind the purist barricade, dropping from a ceiling vent like a ghost. The soldiers were facing the other direction, watching the corridor. They did not expect an attack from behind. Fired his grandfather's pistol 4 times. The ancient weapon roared like thunder in the enclosed space. 4 purists fell before the others even realized what was happening. The remaining soldiers spun around, raising their rifles, dove behind a support pillar as energy blasts scorched the air around him. He was outnumbered, but he had done what he needed to do. He had created a distraction. The old guard charged down the corridor, his weapon blazing, ran behind him, her robes flowing like water. The purists were caught between 2 attacks, unable to defend both fronts. It was over in seconds. The last soldier fell, and silence descended on the corridor. Emerged from behind the pillar. His hands were shaking, and there was blood on his shirt. He did not know if it was his or someone else's. Ran to him, her skin shifting through a dozen colors as she wrapped her arms around him. "You kept your promise," she said. "I always keep my promises," he replied. The old guard was at the escape pod controls, his fingers moving across the panels. "The pods are intact. We can launch." Looked back down the corridor toward the sounds of fighting that still echoed through the ship. "What about the others, the crew?" "The captain ordered everyone to the pods 20 minutes ago," the guard said. "Most have already launched. We should go." But did not move. Something was wrong. He could feel it like a cold wind blowing through his bones. The purists had known where they would go. They had been waiting for them, which meant they had a spy on the ship. Someone who knew the escape routes, who knew the princess's plans. Someone who was still out there. His voice was worried. "What is wrong?" Before he could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows at the far end of the corridor. It was in dark robes, carrying something small and round in his hands, a device that glowed with an inner light pulsing like a heartbeat. Had never seen anything like it, but somehow he knew exactly what it was. A weapon meant to kill them all. And there was no time left to run. The in dark robes walked toward them with slow, measured steps. His face was calm, almost peaceful. His silver skin did not shift or change color like his did. It remained a dead, flat gray, the color of a corpse. "Princess," he said, his voice echoed in the empty corridor. "I am commander of the Purity Movement. I have waited a long time for this moment." The old guard raised his weapon but only smiled. "I would not do that if I were you. Do you know what I hold in my hands?" Looked at the device. It was a sphere about the size of a human fist, made of some dark material that seemed to absorb light. The glow came from its center, a swirling point of energy that hurt his eyes to look at directly. "A singularity grenade," the old guard whispered. His voice was filled with horror. "They were banned by the Great Accords. No one has used one in 1,000 years." "Desperate times require desperate measures," said. "The Empire has grown weak under your father's rule, Princess. He has sold our heritage to these primitive apes, betrayed everything our ancestors built. Someone had to stop him." "By killing his daughter." His voice was steady, but could see her skin flickering with fear. "That will not stop him. It will only give him reason to destroy you. Perhaps, or perhaps it will break him. Either way, the alliance with humanity will end. The war that follows will purify our people, burn away the weakness that contact with lesser species has created." His eyes gleamed with fanatic light. "You should be honored, Princess. Your death will save our civilization." "You are insane," said. Turned to look at him and his face twisted with disgust. "Ah, the human, I have heard about you. The maintenance worker who has been corrupting the princess with your primitive ways. Do not worry. You will die with her. It is fitting, really. A symbol of everything wrong with this new order." His mind was racing. He knew about singularity grenades from his history lessons. They were not just weapons. They were nightmares given physical form. When activated, they created a tiny black hole that consumed everything within a 10-meter radius. Matter, energy, light itself. Nothing escaped. Nothing survived. If released that trigger, they would all cease to exist in an instant. "The captain has already sent a distress signal," the old guard said. He was trying to buy time, realized, trying to delay the inevitable. "Imperial ships will be here within hours. You cannot escape." "I do not intend to escape," said calmly. "I will die here with you, a martyr for the cause. My name will be remembered for 1,000 generations." "Your name will be cursed," spat. "You will be remembered as a murderer and a traitor." "History is written by the winners, Princess. And when humanity is crushed and the Empire is pure again, I will be remembered as a hero." His thumb moved toward the activation switch on the grenade. did not think. He did not calculate odds or consider consequences. He did not weigh his life against the lives of others. He simply acted, following an instinct that came from somewhere deeper than thought. He threw himself forward, placing his body between and. At the same moment, he tackled the princess to the ground, wrapping his arms around her, shielding her with everything he had. The old guard fired his weapon. The energy blast caught in the shoulder, spinning him around. But it was too late. The fanatic's thumb had already pressed the switch. The singularity grenade activated. Had always wondered what death would feel like. He had imagined it would be peaceful, a gentle fading into darkness. He was wrong. The grenade created a point of absolute destruction at the center of the corridor. Reality itself seemed to tear apart. Felt the pull of it, the hungry gravity trying to rip him apart molecule by molecule. He felt pain beyond anything he had ever experienced, beyond anything he had ever imagined possible. But he did not let go of. He held her tight, pressing his body against hers, using himself as a shield against the impossible forces that raged around them. The singularity expanded, consuming in an instant. The old guard was caught at the edge, his body torn apart before he could even scream. The corridor buckled and twisted, metal bending like paper in a hurricane. Felt his bones crack. He felt his flesh burn. He felt his consciousness beginning to slip away into the darkness. But he did not let go. The singularity reached its maximum size and then collapsed, folding in on itself in a flash of impossible light. Emergency activated, sealing the breach where the corridor had been torn open to space. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered and died. And then there was silence. Lay on the floor, broken and bleeding. He could not feel his legs anymore. He could not feel much of anything, actually, just a distant throbbing pain that seemed to belong to someone else. His vision was blurring, the world fading to gray at the edges. But he could see she was alive. She was moving, pushing herself up from beneath his body. Her skin was flickering wildly, cycling through colors he had never seen before, and her eyes were filled with tears. Did not cry like humans. Their tears were silver like liquid metal, and they fell from her eyes in slow, heavy drops. Had learned that only cried in moments of profound loss, when grief became too great for their bodies to contain. It was a sacred thing, a private thing, something that most outsiders never witnessed. She was crying for him. She whispered, her voice seemed to come from very far away. "Stay with me, please, help is coming, just hold on." He tried to speak, but no words came out. His mouth was full of blood, his lungs struggling to draw breath. He was dying. He knew it with absolute certainty. No human body could survive what he had just endured. But she was alive. That was all that mattered. He managed to move his hand, reaching up to touch her face. His fingers left red smears on her silver skin, human blood mingling with alien tears. "Safe," he whispered. It was the only word he could manage. "You fool," she said. Her voice was breaking, cracking with emotion. "You stupid, brave, wonderful fool. Why did you do that? Why did you throw yourself in front of me?" He wanted to tell her. He wanted to explain that some things were worth dying for, that her life mattered more to him than his own, that somewhere along the way, between fixing air recyclers and talking in the engine room, he had fallen in love with an alien princess from the stars. But the words would not come. The darkness was closing in now, wrapping around him like a cold blanket. He could feel himself slipping away, falling into something vast and empty. The last thing he saw was her face, silver and beautiful, streaked with tears. The last thing he heard was her voice, calling his name over and over again. And then there was nothing. Held's broken body in her arms and screamed. She screamed until her throat was raw, until her lungs burned, until there was nothing left inside her but grief. She had never understood humans. Their short lives, their primitive ways, their stubborn refusal to accept their place in the universe. They were strange creatures, irrational and unpredictable. But this human had given his life for her. This human had faced a weapon that could destroy starships and had used his own flesh and bone to shield her from its fury. No would have done such a thing. No member of any species she knew would have done such a thing. And now he was dead, or dying. She could still feel a heartbeat beneath her hands, faint and irregular but somehow still there. Humans were stubborn. Even in death, they refused to give up. She heard footsteps approaching, voices speaking in the language, calling for medical teams and rescue squads. The purest ships had been destroyed, she would learn later. An Imperial battle fleet had arrived just in time, responding to the distress call. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was the broken human in her arms, the man who had taught her what courage truly meant. "Do not die," she whispered against his ear. "Please, I am not ready to lose you. There is so much I need to tell you, so much I need to say." She pressed her forehead against his, her silver tears falling onto his face. "Come back to me, Cole. That is an order, and I am a princess. You have to obey." But he did not answer. His eyes remained closed, his breath barely visible, and held him and cried and prayed to gods she was not sure she believed in. Somewhere in the distance, rescue ships were docking. Help was on the way. She just hoped it would be enough. Drifted in darkness for what felt like an eternity. Sometimes he heard voices, distant and muffled, speaking in languages he could not understand. Sometimes he felt warmth, like sunlight on his face. Sometimes he felt cold, like the void of space pressing against his skin. He dreamed, strange dreams filled with stars and planets and beings made of pure light. He dreamed of his grandfather's workshop back on Earth, the smell of oil and metal filling the air. He dreamed of crystal cities and singing forests and oceans that glowed in the dark. And always, he dreamed of violet eyes filled with tears. When he finally opened his eyes, he did not recognize where he was. The ceiling above him was made of something that looked like flowing water, frozen in place. The walls glowed with soft, warm light. Machines hummed around him, their sounds unlike anything he had heard before. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy and strange. There were tubes attached to his arms, flowing with liquids that changed color as he watched. His chest was wrapped in something that felt like silk but pulsed with a gentle energy. "You are awake." The voice came from beside him, turned his head slowly and painfully and saw her. Sat in a chair next to his bed. Her silver skin had lost its luster, looking pale and tired. There were dark circles under her violet eyes. Her hand was wrapped around his, her fingers cold against his skin. She looked like she had not slept in days. "Where am I?" His voice came out as a croak, his throat dry and rough. "The Imperial flagship Radiance of Stars," she said. Her voice was soft, careful, as if she was afraid speaking too loudly would break something. "You have been unconscious for 3 days." 3 days. He tried to process this. The last thing he remembered was the singularity grenade, the impossible pain, and then darkness. How am I alive? "You should not be." A new voice spoke from the doorway, turned to see a tall male in white robes entering the room. His skin was a deep blue, marked with patterns that looked like constellations. "By all rights, you should have been atomized. The singularity grenade is not a weapon that leaves survivors." "This is Chief Healer," said. "He has been treating you since you were brought aboard." Approached the bed, his eyes studying with clinical interest. "The princess tells me that you threw yourself between her and the blast. Is this true?" "Yes," said simply. "Remarkable," shook his head slowly. "The outer edge of the singularity should have killed you instantly, but somehow your body absorbed enough of the energy to survive. Barely. We have never seen anything like it." "Humans are stubborn," said weakly. "So I have learned." Turn 2. "The Emperor wishes to speak with him when he is able. I will inform His Majesty that the human has awakened." After the healer left and sat in silence for a long moment, he looked at her, really looked, and saw the exhaustion in her face. She had been sitting by his bed for 3 days. She had not left his side. "You have been here the whole time," he said. "Yes. You should rest." "No," her grip tightened on his hand. "I almost lost you. I sat here and watched you die slowly, waiting for each heartbeat to be your last. I am not leaving now." Did not know what to say. He had never been good with words, especially emotional ones. He was a man who fixed machines, not a poet or a philosopher. But looking at her now, at this alien princess who had somehow become the most important person in his life, he knew he had to try. "I am sorry," he said. She blinked, surprised. "Sorry for what?" "For scaring you, for almost dying, for not being strong enough to protect you without getting hurt. You saved my life." Her voice cracked. "You took a weapon that should have destroyed us both, and you used your own body to shield me. Do not apologize for that. Never apologize for that." "I would do it again," he said quietly. 100 times, 1,000 times. I would always choose to save you." The tears came again, those silver drops that shed only in moments of great emotion. They rolled down her cheeks and fell onto their joined hands. "I do not understand," she whispered. "I do not understand how you can care so much. We are different species. We come from different worlds. Our lives are so far apart that they should never have touched. Why do you feel this way about me?" Thought about the question for a long time. He thought about all the hours they had spent together in his workshop, talking about nothing and everything. He thought about the way her skin changed colors with her moods, the way her laugh sounded like bells ringing in a summer breeze. He thought about the courage she had shown in the face of death, the kindness she had shown to a simple maintenance worker who had no business being anywhere near royalty. "Because you are you," he said finally. "Because when I am with you I feel like I matter, not because of what I can do or what I can fix, but because of who I am. You see me, the real me, and I see you. The real you, not the princess or the diplomat or the symbol, just a person trying to find her way in a universe that does not always make sense." She stared at him, her violet eyes wide and shimmering. "Humans have a word for what you are feeling," she said slowly. "You told me once that you would let me figure it out for myself." Nodded, remembering that conversation from what felt like a lifetime ago. "I have figured it out," she said. "The word is love, is that right?" "That is right. I think I feel it too." She brought his hand to her lips and kissed it gently. "I do not know what that means for us. Our peoples have never joined together in this way. There will be challenges and obstacles and people who say it is impossible." "Let them say what they want," replied. "I have never cared much about impossible. I am too stubborn for that." She laughed then, a real laugh that filled the room with warmth. Her skin shifted to that golden color he loved so much, bright and alive and full of hope. The door opened again and a group entered. At their head was a male who could only be Emperor himself. He was tall even for his species, his skin marked with intricate patterns of silver and gold. His eyes were the same violet as his daughter's, but harder, deeper, full of the weight of ruling an empire. "Father," said, standing quickly. "Sit, daughter." His voice was deep and commanding, but not unkind. He approached the bed and looked down with an expression that was difficult to read. "So this is the human who saved your life?" "Yes, father." The emperor studied for a long moment, met his gaze without flinching. He was not afraid. He had faced death itself and survived. What was an emperor compared to that? "You threw yourself in front of a singularity grenade," said, "a weapon that can destroy warships. You used your body to shield my daughter. Why?" "Because I love her," said simply. There was no point in lying or making excuses. And because it was the right thing to do. Was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he smiled. "The purists believed that contact with humans would make us weak," he said. "They were wrong. Contact with humans has shown us what true strength looks like. Not the strength of weapons or armies, but the strength of the heart. The strength to sacrifice everything for someone you love. He reached out and placed his hand on shoulder. I owe you a debt I can never repay, Cole. You saved my daughter. You saved the alliance between our peoples. And you showed the galaxy that humans are not the primitive creatures some believe them to be. Did not know what to say. He looked at who was smiling through her tears. I just did what anyone would do, he said finally. No, shook his head. You did what a hero would do, and heroes deserve to be rewarded. In the weeks that followed, recovered slowly. Medicine was advanced beyond anything humans had developed, and his wounds healed faster than they should have. But the scars remained, marks on his body that would never fully fade. He did not mind. They were reminders of the night he had discovered what he was truly capable of. The story of his sacrifice spread across both human and space. News networks broadcast it to billions of viewers. Diplomats spoke of it in their meetings. Ordinary people told it to their children as an example of courage and love. The alliance between humanity and the Empire grew stronger. The purists had failed. Instead of destroying the peace, they had cemented it in ways no treaty could have achieved. And Cole, the maintenance engineer from a small town on Earth, found himself at the center of it all. He stood on the observation deck of the Radiance of Stars, looking out at the stars. Stood beside him, her hand in his. Below them, the planet Prime turned slowly, its crystal cities glittering in the light of twin suns. What happens now? He asked. I do not know, she admitted. My life has been planned out since I was born, princess, diplomat, eventually a marriage to some noble from another house. But now, she looked at him, her skin shifting to that warm gold. Now everything is different. Good different or bad different? Good, she said firmly, definitely good. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Two beings from different worlds, bound together by something stronger than politics or duty or even species. The universe was vast and full of wonders. There would be challenges ahead, enemies to face, obstacles to overcome, but was not worried. He had already survived the impossible. And he had done it for love. What more could the universe throw at him? He squeezed hand and she squeezed back. Her skin was warm against his, alien and familiar all at once. Ready? She asked. Ready, he said. Together, they turned and walked toward whatever future awaited them, two hearts beating as one under an endless sky of stars. The end.